Welcome back. Republicans in the Senate blocked the Democrats' voting bill yesterday. They only got 50 of the 60 votes needed to clear it. The bill would federalize the election process. It forces states to require ballot harvesting. It would ban state voter ID laws and send taxpayer money to political campaigns. Republicans say the states run their own elections, according to the Constitution, and this bill instead creates undue federal power. Joining me right now is North Dakota Senator, Armed Services Committee member Kevin Cramer. Senator, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks very much for being here. Take us behind the curtain here. What went on in the hearing and the debate over this voting bill yesterday?
Yeah, Maria, good morning. Good to be with you. Really, I think the voter integrity piece of all of this really is foundational to the difference between liberals and conservatives. You know, a lot of times we search for, we find compromise, common ground, but when it comes to this issue of whether the federal government should be in charge of our elections or whether the states ought to be in charge of our elections, this is foundational to the difference between the two political parties, and that's what you saw play out, I think, throughout the last several weeks and yesterday. But the power grab that Democrats are trying to take with this S1 was really quite extraordinary. And what's interesting to me is, politically speaking, they're swimming upstream. I mean, voter ID laws, as you pointed out, are very popular. People of every political stripe, every geography, want and believe that there ought to be integrity in that. The other thing is, I know nobody that thinks that taxpayers ought to fund elections. I mean, the notion that I ought to be forced to fund my opponent's campaign is just ludicrous on its face. And you know, things like ballot harvesting, mandating ballot harvesting, that's like mandating shoplifting, for crying out loud, which wouldn't surprise me if they want to do that next. But this is a lot of things in this bill that are very unpopular, and yet you see Democrats doubling down on it. And I think this really is an illustration to the divide in their own conference, and that is that they have this very extreme left that they have to hang on to maintain power, but I think it makes a lot of Democrats uncomfortable.
Well, we want to inform our audience as far as what this bill says and why we're seeing so many states come up with their own voting bills, because clearly there's a lot of uncertainty about voting, about what took place in the 2020 election. And you've got several states coming up with their own packages. The Democrats are trying to call this a civil rights issue. But you look at 2020, and I think it was the best showing of the Black America that we've seen ever in elections. So to call, you know, any new voting laws Jim Crow or, you know, suppression of the vote or civil rights issues seems to me off base.
It's completely off base, and it's not factual. It's not historically accurate, Maria, because this same bill, this was introduced in 2019. This basic language that Democrats have been pushing, they've been pushing it for a couple of decades. The thing that changes isn't their legislation or the policies that they're trying to push. It's really the narrative that surrounds it. And so the latest narrative is, you know, 2020 should be repeated, whereas before it was 2016 should never happen again. You can't have it both ways every year.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let me move on. We just came off of the Biden-Putin meeting where President Biden shared a list of 16 critical infrastructure sectors with Vladimir Putin. Now the Department of Homeland Security has identified those 16 critical infrastructure sectors at risk of cybersecurity interruptions. This is the Senate Armed Services Subcommittee is set to meet today to discuss recent ransomware attacks. Senator, what can we expect from the meeting? Initially, I thought it was a mistake. I thought maybe President Biden wasn't supposed to say it in front of the press the other day, that he gave Vladimir Putin a list of 16 vulnerable infrastructure areas. So now the Homeland Security Department's following up, making this list public, I guess. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so every now and then you see something sort of bizarre, like handing a list of targets to not attack, which implies that all the other targets are free to be attacked. It'd be like saying, whatever you do, don't send a nuclear missile at the United States Capitol or the White House or, you know, or New York City. Other than that, feel free. I have to believe that there's more to it than that. I hope that there's a more clever strategy than all of that. Obviously, there's a vulnerability that we feel, and understandably so, but I think people should have some confidence confidence in knowing that we're also pretty good at it ourselves. And the best way, whether it's cyber, nuclear, conventional weapons, whatever the case might be, the best deterrent in the world is to be very good at the offensive side of it, and it have to be believable. I do think it's the believability part that Joe Biden suffers a little bit from, that people aren't taking seriously, that he's willing to, to utilize the tools that we have to stand up against, whether it's Vladimir Putin or other regimes. But at the same time, I want to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt that he knows something that we don't know, or that he's got a larger strategy in all of this that hopefully makes sense, and we're just not at this point entitled to know about it. But that might be giving him too much credit. I don't know.
Senator, it's good to have you this morning. Thanks very much. We'll follow up on all of the above. Have a good day, sir. Thank you so much.
Always my
Kevin
pleasure.
Cramer
Thank you.
joining us this morning in D.C. We'll see you soon, sir. Coming up.